Well, hello, hello. We're back again for another Other Ink Thursday. That's where I, Matthew Orr of Wet Ink Games, talk to somebody whose work I have not published about their projects, the other ink that's going on in the industry. And I'm very glad today to have Meg Lemieur of an artist and illustrator and map maker and TTRPG contributor. We're going to talk about art and making it as an artist and some of the games that she's gotten to work on. So thanks, Meg, for being here.
Oh, thanks you so much for getting in contact with me for this. It's generous, so generous that you do these kinds of interviews. It's really wonderful.
Well, I mean, it takes a village, right, to like do all the stuff in the industry, right? I mean, there are superstars in the industry who, write and illustrate and edit, and they've got their own podcasts and all that kind of stuff. And then there's just so many other people who run game stores and make cons happen and work at booths and, write little bits of things or illustrate, and it's like let's get all the perspectives is my point of view, So everybody's making interesting contributions to games. So yeah, I want to talk to lots of people.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Oh, and I mean we'll jump in with the starting there. Like I met you, I think, in 2021 at PAX Unplugged, which is a gaming convention, and you were there, so I assume that was not purely mercenary. I assume that you like games that were there for more than just handing out your business cards. Uh,
Me
are
too.
are you a gamer? Do you play games? I assume. Tell me
I
about
do.
your life in games.
I do like games. I get a little intimidated by the word gamer because some
Mm.
gamers are like uh they've played like a bajillion and a half games and that's amazing. And I choose games the way that I choose my wine bottles, like for the
Ooh.
art. And so I definitely, I mean, that's the reason why I kept on coming back to your booth at PAX Unplugged because you guys have wonderful art. And that's really obvious that you have great art direction and you have a good eye for it. So I was like, these guys know what's up. Like, I don't know. I just kept wanting to come back um, and see a little deeper what was going on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah.
Well, that's good. And so like I will appreciate the comments as the person who does most of the art direction type decisions for Wet Ink. I'm like, yeah, I like to think I have an eye for it, but I don't, you know, I
You
know what I
do.
like. I know what I like. I don't know if what I like is what the market likes, but I know what I like.
That's real. That's real. Well, I will tell you, I walked around that convention numerous times and I kept wanting to come back to
Hmm.
your booth because it's solid, solid work.
Well, appreciate it. And perhaps your art will someday grace the covers of one of our books. We haven't had the right project line up yet, but there's always new projects on the horizon. So,
Always.
uh, uh, but I want to. So, what are some of you say you pick games for the art? So, what are some of the games that you do like that have good art that you've gotten to the table or RPG or board game, either one. What are some of the ones that like really are like, yeah, I like when this game gets out and I get to see all the stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's a number of them. There's the very obvious like wingspan type games that are just like so beautiful and everybody's just like, oh, you should do this. And I'm like, right. It's very inspiring. But there were a few games that caught my eye, and one of them was Gone to Gaia by the Rose Gauntlet Entertainment. It was
Mm.
just really delightfully beautiful and lots of fun little knickknacks in there. I like a lot of the games by Hatchet Board Games. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I feel like I was like trying to prep for this and I was like, man, I feel like I've played a lot of different um games over the past like year, but yeah, I mean, it really comes down to just like wanting to like stare at illustrations for a long time. So if there's fun illustrations, I might like miss my turn because I'm just like, how did they do that?
It's like a
Yeah.
little art gallery on
Is.
display.
I
What's
don't know
is
what's
it?
going on with my camera. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's trying to scan in automatically on it's
Yeah.
trying to find a face on that wall behind you, I guess. So if I mean this is moving through my questions pretty quickly, but like what is the obviously you're working as an artist, so like and that's what you were just talking about being sort of focused on like the illustrations for a game. Um, where does that go all the way back? Like, is there a game or I mean, does games come first or does art come first? Is there like a one-in-one relationship? You know, you're back at like seeing some Hero Quest box on, you know, the shelf and looking at the layers of dungeon through the door and, you know, thinking about how to draw that. I don't know. I'm making up a story, but like what is the real story of like the sort of your inspirations about like this is what art this I can do art, you know, like where does that come from? Is it at all related to games or is it come from other places?
I think it comes from a lot of places. I think games definitely has a large footprint in that. But I also think that I realized that games were made by artists a little bit later than some people, and maybe that's because we played pretty like simple games growing up. You know, we had like Clue and Labyrinth and Scotland Yard and trivia and things like that. And so not like more complex games, not RPGs. I didn't learn about that until much later in life. Um, and I and some of those games had really fun art. Like Clue started getting kind of interesting with the art, and Labyrinth. I remember like looking at Labyrinth and being like, this is such a cool concept, and you could have pushed this art a little further.
Mm.
And I think that that was the first time that I had a critique of the art and like had an
Ah.
idea about it. Um,
I played a lot of Labyrinth with like my wife what it my sister-in-law, I guess, my wife's younger sister. Like that's like we played a lot of that. You know, and I mean it's not a bad game, but yeah, it's like, oh, find the can you get to the dragon? And it's just this tiny little very generic dragon illustration on one of the tiles, you know, and
yeah,
yeah,
which is
I
like great, but I'm like, and
surely there could I agree with your critique that there could be like a more intensely a visual version of that game.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
I think when I was in college, so I ended up going to the University of the Arts here in Philadelphia, RIP, um, it, for illustration. And in that process of going to school, I started collecting games and books that were super inspiring to me. And there were I remember there was this one game by illustrated by Will Terry, and I was just like, "This is the best thing ever." I was like, "This is a real human, and like it's a real piece of art." And you know, there was brush strokes in it that I could see,
Mm.
um, and I think that's where I connected. Like, oh wow, I could do something like this. And my first internship out of college was with a toy and package design company. And so we did a lot of design for toys and for the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
And we were like starting to get into games a little bit. I ended up being sidelined into the administrative side of things. Long story. It's a very sexist and frustrating story. Like
Mm.
all the dudes got to draw and I was put on phones.
I'm
And
sorry, that's awful.
yeah, it really was. But when I was able to quit that and kind of readjust where I wanted to be, I was like, man, games are like, they're like little portfolios in a
Mm.
box of this person's work. And like, what an expose, and like, what a delightful way of experiencing this person's way of creating. It was just really delightful.
Yeah. And I imagine like being at a company that was making like packaging for toys. I mean, that's sort of like that's the whole game in some respects about like making covers of games and covers of books and stuff like that is like maximal like attention drawing qualities, that's sort of like uh, really great to like have that sort of be part of your background or whatever when you come to do it later.
It was
Uh,
such an education.
yeah,
I'm so glad that I mean, however that ended up, I'm really glad that I had that as part of my story because I learned how to interact with clients, how to set up file print or print files, and like how to work with vendors and what printing actually is, and all sorts of
yeah.
stuff.
Well, and one of my questions for you is like you seem to be sort of, I mean, many artists will set up a thing where you can get my art on a mug and a t-shirt and a blanket, like, but you seem to be sort of better at that or have more of those options or sort of more curated products or so I don't know. Your products are not just like everything's on Cafe Press and you can get it if you want it. Like you've got sort of a
Hmm.
more uh your art is offered as products a little more deliberately, I think, than the lowest entry level sort of artists. So like perhaps that we'll come back to that question later, but that's like maybe that informs that too of like from the first being like art as product or art complementing product or whatever. I mean, that is there's something interesting there, I think, to talk about. But I
Very.
do want to talk more broadly about your art and like how you came to your style, because I mean, you've got the wall of art behind you, and you've got the funny octopus, and you've got you've got art that is fun, but then you've also got such realistic art, such naturalistic art. Many of your pieces are like this is looks like a hyena, or this looks like this is a map of a watershed, or this is, I've got your Corvids
Mhm.
art box here. So like all of these like birds in here are all like, they're not cartoon birds. So like of all of the art that you could be doing, why does so much of it trend toward naturalism and nature and stuff like that? And I think we can talk, that'll lead us into talking about some of the other things you do as an artist and stuff like that. But like where did that come from for you? Is it just going out and looking at nature? You spent more time outside than watching cartoons, and so you want to draw birds rather than, guys with weird hair silhouettes, or, I don't know. Like what's the where does it come from for you to focus on that side of things?
Comes from a lot of places. I guess growing up, I was homeschooled by a very nature loving mom. And we would spend a lot of time out in the natural world. Down here, buddy. And I think that put a level of like
Mm,
core interest in the natural world that I probably didn't even realize that I had in me until a little bit later in life. But I've been a freelance artist for I don't know, kind of forever, but I haven't always been a nature focused artist, and I think that started because probably about a decade before I decided to become a nature focused artist, I had been doing environmental activism
mm,
all over the country, uh, I just realized that I'm um, creating a life where I love the natural world, and I love that it supports us as humans, as animals, as plants, and like and how ecosystems work together. And I think through activism and through understanding like, oh wow, you can get like a entire forest protected if there are like bog turtles in that forest, and like whoa. And then I'm like, what are bog turtles? And they're like these adorable little turtles that are just like, oh my gosh, what? And like,
mm,
why are they like so important? And then I started just like learning more and more about how amazing the natural world is while I was doing the activism and getting deeper and deeper into that. And then I just fell straight on my face and like burned out hardcore, and realized that I needed to express my love of the natural world in a way that wasn't fighting,
Mm,
but was more loving and creating. Um, some people are built to fight their whole lives, and I'm not one of them. I need breaks and I need times to just express joy and delight. And I think that that was the shift. It
yeah.
was during that time when I was honestly just absolutely devastated about what was going on and the attack on the natural world that I was like, I'm going to tell everybody how stupidly awesome this place is. And I just started focusing on, I don't know, drawing anything from a hyena, which people think is like the scariest, grossest thing. But it's not. It's like really cool and like actually very delightful and like works as a pack and super smart.
Yeah.
um to like salamanders and cute birds and how great they are too. So I feel like there's just, I want to invite people back to nature, invite people back to that
Mm,
love of where we are, and like realize how important we all are to each other, and celebrate that, while I emotionally recover from being an environmental activist.
yeah, it is. Yes, I hear all of those things. It is yeah, resistance is very rest is part of the resistance. So give yourself that permission. But also there's so much effort that has to go into it to reverse, the dominant trends of our industry. I mean, even we talked about it. We talk about it as publishers. Like there's you go to the con and your stuff comes in a box and then every individual piece is shrink wrapped and then you throw all that away and it's a big pile that they come with like an earth mover sized machine to take away all the cardboard at the end of the convention. It's like oops, well, what have we done here? It's on the mind, but it is also sort of like, if you're gonna make yeah, it's very difficult, right? To that there's a gigantic infrastructure that's
Right.
doing things that way, and to push against it is very difficult. So, um, you were talking about the bog turtles, and I was, I'm familiar with the idea of like, oh, the tiger is a charismatic species, so if we could get this whole area protected for the tiger, which people like to see, then the small animals that live in the streams and stuff like that will also be protected. But it sounds almost like what you're doing is like, no, the bog turtle is itself a charismatic species. Like, look at its face.
So freaking cute. And they're like tiny. They like will just curl up in the little palm of your hand.
Mm.
It's so adorable. Oh my goodness. But even like I have a piece coming out pretty soon of like bats that are
Mm.
just like the most like wild, kind of creepy characters. And but they're awesome.
They're all so charismatic with their weird face flaps and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think it is sort of like I don't know, there is like a whole industry of cute animals and stuff like that, from cartoons and plushies and all kinds of stuff. But then there is also like but you don't need any of that. Like just look at the animal. It's also cute.
I saw this, my a family member
Mm,
will say, sent me like a cute image because he knows that I like animals, and so he sent me this cute image of like a baby hummingbird being fed by the mommy hummingbird, and it was like an AI generated
mm.
image, and the baby hummingbird had these big eyes, and it was like
Oh no.
it was so ridiculous, and I was like, ugh. I was like, you don't have to make a baby hummingbird look like that. Like baby hummingbirds are amazing just the way that they are. Just like stop.
Well, I'm gonna have to go search that up later because most baby birds look like Skeksis
Yes.
but what is a hummingbird? What's the hummingbird version of that? I need to know. Um,
Weird small sketches.
uh, okay, I want to ask you about. I've got my questions here. We're kind of we're going through it, but I want to ask you about like I mean, you've already said like the kind of like the bring inviting people out into nature and so like that is to me knowing your work mostly from Instagram and not necessarily because I don't live in Philly or I would have tried to go to get your like am I remembering correctly that you put like small zine games at like all the local parks and you had to kind of collect them all? Is that like a thing that I
Mm.
remember that you did? Um,
Yeah, so that was actually my first game.
okay.
Well, that's not true. It was my first published game.
It's
um,
usually the same thing, but yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
I've I had like a small company for a little bit who was doing, and we were doing like a personalized games for people's like birthdays and stuff. And so we
Mm.
would like create these personalized things for people. So I did some of those, which is why I say like they weren't published, they were like customized games, like
Okay, I think that counts as like you published them, but the audience was very small. Like
very
you,
small.
they weren't still in your desk drawer waiting to be seen. They were
Right.
out there. That counts. That's a real game.
um, but yeah, so the what you're talking about is a game called Aqua Marooned. And I have actually some of these expansion packs right here. And we we got a grant to create this through a watershed grant. So the watershed of the Delaware River system. And so we're within the Delaware River watershed. And so there were 23 different parks within the system that invested in this grant application, and we created this game where you go around and you have cards that you're playing while walking around the trails, and the game encourages interacting with the trail on a physical level, whether you're um, racing to pick up trash or racing to like count how many specific types of leaves you can find, or building little things, or spotting different creatures. So there's this a core main deck of cards, and then for each center, each of the 23 centers, there were these little expansion packs with 10 to 15 cards within them. And so we ended up making like over 300 cards, I think.
Yeah.
Uh, and it was really wonderful. And it was also wonderful because it was a free game that you could pick up at the different environmental centers. And so people from all over the watershed were able to engage with it in different ways. And it's fun when people still, I mean, that was a few years ago at this point, and it's fun. People have like held on to those and continue playing with them. And it's yeah, it's a great game to activate your family as you're walking around
Yeah.
um, the parks.
Well, and that seems like at such a high level, an example of like what kind of the stuff that you do, right? Like it's like you do the nature journaling classes and you've got a map of the watershed that you can get as a poster or a blanket or various size prints, and like study it and it's got the animal illustrations on it. It's like the invitation part of it, but it's also nature activism. It's also like participatory, like you can't do it from the desk. You have to go to the park to get the pack and
Right.
then the game itself is interactive with the physical location and all of it was paid for by a grant and it's like this is operating at I think from my perspective this is a high level like I don't know hacking the system in some ways like you're doing from a game design perspective, like this is not how most games get done, but it seems it's much more. It's an artist thing. It's getting a grant for a public event is much more like an artist thing. So is there? Obviously, you are an artist, so it makes sense. But like, I don't know, is there synergy there, gamifying this, or is it like? Is it an art project or a game, I guess is, why not both? It
Great
could be the
question.
answer, I guess. But like, what side do you think of it as? Because like you're talking about these packs, and then like I'm immediately like sort of businessing it into like, okay, but like you gave them away free, but now they're out of print, and so like you could do another print run where like you get the core set and like six expa the most popular expansions come in the box, and then like you could sell it at the gift shops, and but then it's like maybe that's not the point of it because it was a one-time thing that was inviting people to participate, and it was hyper specific and to that time and place, and you experienced it, and then now it's gone unless you still have it. I don't know. Like, how do you think about these things of from those two sides, I guess, like the well, and the public money and the public participation, like you're pulling a lot of things together here, and what kind of leads and what follows, I guess, when you're doing a project like that that is touching on so many elements.
Yeah, so I will say that we were not the designers of the game.
Hmm.
So we did the illustrations. I say we, I had a creative partner at that time, and the two of us did a lot of different projects together. The people who wrote the grant application and ended up getting it was this I think they ended up being like a nonprofit, but there are these two folks who are game designers, but they're also interactive theater performers, and they like do interactive theater. And so I think that the game and theater stuff comes together quite a bit.
Yeah.
And they've done I've done a few projects with them where it's a lot more of an interactive, like moving around kind of a game than maybe some tabletop games. So they're the ones who wrote the grant application and got the grant. I believe so. So it was an I think it was an artist residency. So I think it was like it's an art project. Um, and it was a manifestation of art through game, theater, illustration, like all these arts kind of coming together as a game, because it's all art, right? So yeah, I think that it technically was like an art project, but we then they found us, and we did all the illustration work and the design work and um, promos and stuff like that.
Yeah. And was there, I mean, what kind of, I'd be just out of curiosity, what kind of like, I'm sure the grant paid for the production of the actual physical card sets. Like, were there a lot of them made, or were there, hundreds, low thousands? Like, how many of those sets went out into the world?
I think there were like 10 to 15,000
Goodness.
core decks.
Yeah.
And then there were like between six and 700 of each of the expansion packs.
Yeah. I mean, those are from, I mean, as a small publisher, those are big numbers, like
Yeah.
those are, that's, and so great. I mean, that's really cool. But then I don't know, like what kind of, it's not like I don't know, everybody's numbers have to be whatever they are, like numbers aren't really the most important thing. It's sort of like the everybody's at their different scale, whatever works for them is the different scale, I guess.
Yeah, I really wish that they were able to republish. I've talked to them about that. I know that the people who like designed the game, they've kind of moved on with their lives and are doing other projects now. And I think that who holds this game
Mm,
right now is a little bit tenuous and mushy. And I don't think that there's like somebody who's like, this is still important and this is still like meaningful to a bunch of people. Let's keep doing it.
yeah,
And so it's kind of fallen because it wasn't like through a game publisher. It wasn't through somebody who was thinking about those kind of like continual numbers or continual
yeah,
ways of marketing it. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't think that it's going to be continued, but it was really cool what happened.
yeah. It 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 is really cool. Uh I want to let you talk about any of your other sort of like artist stuff that you've done, that you think is other things that you think that you've done and that are really cool. Like, I mean, obviously, I've mentioned your nature journaling classes. I actually, obviously, it wasn't yours but in my own local forest, I went and there was an artist who was teaching that kind of stuff, and we
Oh,
sewed a little bunch of pages into a scrap of leather, and then we had a journal, and then she took us outside, and she's like, "Look at this pine cone," and we all drew it or whatever. Obviously, I'm summarizing hastily a whole day's experience, but that kind of thing is fun, and again, it's community oriented, gets people out into the nature, like sharing experience from somebody who knows how to do this, and passing that on to 25 people at once or whatever. That I think that's cool, but like maybe it's just par for the course. And then you mentioned artist in residence, which is another thing that this local, it's like a what is it called? It's the Bernheim Arboretum and Research Forest or something like that is the name of it. Very fancy, very fancy. But it's a few miles away down the highway from where I am, but they have, I don't know, 120 acres, more than 120. It's like it's a big place. It's a big place. It has to be more than 120. It's thousands of acres, I'm sure. But like they're basically just like, this is just forest now, and you can't use it for anything else anymore. It's like all, they've got signs around that like, oh, this is where the iron mining was happening in like 1820s, and like here's the place where, this what mill was on this creek in this year or whatever. And it's like, yeah, we took all of that out. It's just trees now. Um, Anyway, so they have an artist in residence program, and they bring in people from all over the place, and it's somebody put like a mosaic on the inside of a hollowed out tree one year, and it's somewhere in the woods, and you have to go on that particular trail to see that piece of art, right? And so it's encouraging you to go do that. But anyway,
cool.
I've talked too much about that, but like what is your artist? You did an artist in residency recently. Like, what was yours that you did? If you want to talk about it. Again, I'm just throwing out like
Sure.
I think I'm impressed by everything you're doing. So like, I've praised you twice for things you're doing. You could pick which, what do you want to talk about?
Well, I will talk about the artist in residence. It's actually still happening.
Okay.
So you know where Philly is? Do you know where Harrisburg is? It's like
Roughly
two
equivalent. I know
hours
we have to
west.
go through it to get to Philly from the direction we're coming from. So.
There you go. You're west of Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I'm in Louisville, Kentucky. So when we come to Philly, we come up into Ohio and then across into we spend about 30 minutes in West Virginia as we come across into
Okay.
Pennsylvania and then all the way across Pennsylvania down to Philly. So we frequently go through the Harrisburg area one way or the other. But
Great. Louisville, that's wonderful. Um, yeah, so if you've driven through the Harrisburg area, then you've driven through where I am doing my artist in residence. Just to the just to the east of Harrisburg is a watershed called the Swatara Creek watershed, and it encompasses, I don't know, I think around 43,000 people get their drinking water from this watershed. And it is a really beautiful area. It includes Hershey and Hershey Park. So Hershey decided to plant his factory in this watershed because the water was really wonderful there. And so I feel like that, says a lot about like what the potential of this area is. So I am an artist in residence there. I'm able to go out between June and October. I like have to go out for 21 days non-consecutively. Um,
get to go out for 21 days.
yeah. Oh, it's so wonderful. So and the assignment is to get to know the watershed in a lot of different ways so that you can create your final art project. And what I proposed for my final art project is to create a map of their watershed that highlights the water trail, which is like a trail along the main creek that you can kayak and do recreational activities, as well as a bunch of local flora and fauna and some specific, really cool geographic markers. Oh, sorry, I just remembered one more geographic marker. I'm working on it right now. This is my sketch that you can barely see behind me. Um, so yeah, so in going out there for these 21 days, I have gotten to hike and bike and kayak and visit museums and go to Hershey Park and eat a lot of chocolate and um, go to like the local fairs and the galleries and uh, different parks around the area. And it's just been a real delight to get to know this area really intensely through a short period of time through a specific lens of like, how does everything that I'm doing relate back to the water, the creek,
Mm.
the nature that's around here? Um, and it's a much more agricultural area than I normally hang out in. So it's also kind of interesting in that aspect of just like getting to know those systems a little bit more. There's been a lot of like mining in that area. Anthracite coal was big in that area, iron ore, all sorts of stuff. And so they've done a lot of environmental remediation over the years. And so getting to know all of that and just being able to celebrate the area kind of for the area, like,
Mm.
wow, this is a beautiful place. Look at all these animals that I get to draw on your map that I've like seen while I've been out there and all these wonderful places. So yeah, so it's been cool to just be able to celebrate the whole the whole watershed and keep my focus throughout all of my experiences, continuing to focus on the natural world through like going to like the local area county fair and stuff like
Yeah, yeah.
things like that. It's fun.
Yeah, I mean, I I can I can totally see that as a everything in the landscape is in conversation with the watershed in a respect because it's either upstream or downstream or you pour that out on the ground and it's going to end up in the water and so like that's just how gravity works and so like it's all you know I can imagine in some respects easy to keep that as a focus and then like every aspect will relate to it because you're focusing on that.
Yeah,
Um,
and like who has the remediated parts of the stream? Like what communities are in the unremediated
mm,
parts? What communities are stuck next to 3 Mile Island, which is right there? Uh,
hmm.
you know, and yeah, there absolutely everything is an environmental issue.
Sure.
Everything that you could think about. So it's been interesting. I love it. I also got to do some nature journaling, not only just for myself, but leading some nature journaling expeditions out there, which was cool. Just getting to know what other people get excited about, what they focus on, why they focus on it,
Mm.
doing a bio blitz, just like IDing absolutely everything that we can, in a short amount of time. It's been fun.
Yeah, yeah. I we have another thing. It's technically one of our parks, city parks. Just talking about IDing things, city park, and it's sort of like next to our river here. So it's like it's a park because it's like they don't want anyone to develop anything there so that it won't get flooded when the river floods. So it's sort of like it's not really nature. It's sort of like wasted area, it's flood control, but
Sure.
presented as a nature reserve. Yeah, it's kind of like I know what's happening from a like a development sort of standpoint why this little patch of ground is undeveloped, but like it gets to also then be a city park. And sure, I mean there's a pond there and birds go, and when we walk around you can see like I've never seen that bird before. Like we saw something that was last time we were there, we saw birds that were like swooping down and either picking stuff off the surface of the water or going right below the water. And I'm like, what kind of bird does that? Is that a kingfisher? Because that's what it kind of looks like to me. But then maybe, I use the bird app and it's like maybe it was a kingbird. I didn't know there was a
Right.
thing called a kingbird, but they
Right.
apparently do a similar thing. And you look at the map range and they're like, they're both here. Like, why have I never seen either of these birds before? But on that day, there was, I guess, great conditions for either eating insects or fishing, whichever one it was doing. But yeah, it's amazing to like just go and look at stuff. And like you say, the ID, I don't know. I didn't get a great look at it and it was brief and the app has some suggestions, but it's hard to confirm what it was, but like that, like go pay attention to some nature, I guess I'm just saying, I'm confirming. That's great. Just go pay attention to some nature. It's
Yeah,
great.
it's almost like Pokemon Go. It's just like you're just trying to like see how many you can get. You're just like, this is amazing. Let's get more.
See, I love when the nerdy stuff is used like that way, where it's like, oh, this is like the OG, Pokemon Go is being a birder. Like,
Yeah.
hey kids, you could do this with real animals too. Um,
Yep.
and adults, plenty of adults play, gosh, the older I get, everybody's a kid these days.
I know.
Anyway.
Well, I heard recently that the Pokemon Go founder, or like the guy who invented it, was a birder and like,
Mm.
or like collected insects as a kid. And so he like shopped around Pokemon Go because he loved like collecting different IDs as a kid. And finally somebody was like, oh, that's a great idea. I'm like,
There you go. Hey, yeah, more. But I love that. I love that. We don't have too much more time, but I do want to ask you a little bit about your game stuff, like the games that you have actually, other games that you've gotten stuff in. I showed core vids here earlier, which is got your bird illustrations in it. I've also got a little card here about Defenders of the Wild, which is a board game that you're in, which has a very resonant theme to everything we've been talking about. In Defenders of the Wild, you playing animals who are fighting against like machines. And then there's like this year a RPG version of Defenders of the Wild called Defenders Almanac was released that I looked for it at the last con I was at and I didn't find it. So
it's coming
but
out this year. Yeah. Well,
coming out,
it'll
but
be at
it's
this year's con. Yeah.
okay, so it's coming out soon.
It just came out, and I think that this season of cons is the first time it'll be
Okay.
out in the wild.
All right. Do you want to talk about either of these games this game stuff? You want to talk about it in any or I don't know. You want to talk about your products for the last couple minutes of this interview? We'll get that
Sure.
in right at the end.
I mean, Defenders of the Wild has been wonderful to work on. Yeah, it's animals fighting machines, trying to save their ecosystem. So it was kind of an easy fit for me. And I love anthropomorphic animals. I love living in that world, and a lot of these animals come from like the mountains or the bogs or the woods or the plains, and so we also get really hyper specific ecosystems within that, and we get to focus on like mountain goats versus salamanders and the differences that they might have as characters. So it's been really fun. I am co-illustrating it with TL Simons, and it's all under Outlandish Games is the company. The board game, yeah, it came out. Gosh, I feel like we worked on it like for 2 years, and then I guess it came out last year.
I mean, I saw it at last PAX Unplugged, so
Yeah,
it was out at that time.
yes. Um,
Right. These things take like 2 years to make and then 2 years to produce, and then by the time they're out, you
so
forget how long you've been doing it.
right. Yeah. And then this year we came out with the Almanac, which is just super, super cool RPG because it has world building, storytelling written by Margaret Killjoy and Patricia Noonan, and it is just eye opening. Really wonderful writing. Both of them are fantastic world builders and creators and thinkers. So it's really delightful. And then in that one, I got to draw the anthropomorphic animals, which were really cute. But then we drew like botany pages of like what kind of botany is in there, what kind of insects, what kind of water creatures, and those drawings are a little bit more realistic. So I kind of got to draw both in my more a little bit more cartoony, like whimsical, sort of realistic cartoony style, but also get my other more realistic style into that project, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Um, it's fun to be able to have a project that allows me to be like my full self because I have
Mm.
numerous uh, parts of my artistic expression, and so being able to showcase a couple of those different things in one project is like pretty special.
Yeah. That is
Yeah.
pretty neat.
We
I
also have a fun, exciting announcement that will be coming up from the creators of Defenders of the Wild later this year. So definitely follow Outlandish Games
mm,
on all the socials to hear about that later. And those will
yeah.
be during PAX Unplugged this year as well.
All right. So that's what they, I mean, we're not too far away. I mean, it's a couple months. It's a
Yeah,
couple months, but it's because it's in uh November this year. It's
it
early.
is.
It's
Yes.
weird. It'll be weird for it to be in November. But we'll all we'll all find out what that means for the con together, I guess. But that's neat. That'll be I mean that's how you do it. You come up with the board game version last year, the RPG version this year, and then announce the new thing for next year. And that's good on Outlandish Games for they seem to be doing all right business wise. Um,
Yeah, I hope so.
uh, they got a good business plan, it seems. Yeah, I am wanting to make sure we don't go too far, too much into your afternoon. But I would like to give you the opportunity to talk about the places that people can find you and follow you, or find your products. We've talked about your the map, and I mentioned blankets and mugs, and you've got whimsical animal expressions, silly phrases to accompany an animal illustration. All of that kind of stuff is available if you like. If any people who are watching this like your stuff, where can they get it? Where can they find you and follow you, and what kind of stuff do you offer as far as like how to get stuff that puts money in your pocket? What is that stuff and where can people get it?
Well, you can find uh, everything that connects to me through my website, which is meglemure.com. My social media stuff is mostly on Instagram at Meg Stampede, Stampede like a of horses, and also Meg Stampede on Blue Sky. I'm also on Facebook, but I'm bad at posting there. That's Meg Lemieur Art on Facebook. Um, if you're looking to buy my stuff, my games are linked through my website. So you can follow that tab to find those. And I have an online shop through Etsy. Try to get off of Etsy at some point in my life. It just takes a lot of work. um, but you can find all of my art prints and all of my products through Etsy. Um, I think that's it. I teach classes if you're in the Philadelphia area. I teach drawing classes as well as nature journaling classes pretty consistently throughout. And I started a nature journaling club here in Philadelphia, which meets every month. It's free and open to the public. You don't have to be an artist, a writer, a naturalist, or anything to come. We're just excited to adore nature together and take a look at it.
Do you go like, here's the schedule, we're going to go to these parks, and you just show up and bring your journal and walk some trail together or not together and journal and
Yeah, so I do ask people to just sign up for it just so that I know if I should be waiting for somebody in the parking lot or not. But people will sign up for it and then we meet. There's so much green space in Philadelphia, and so we go meet at different parks or places that are accessible through public transportation, or our public transportation is failing right now, but in other ways. And yeah, we meet, and then I give like a very brief like intro to nature journaling and give some really simple prompts that people can use absolutely any time that you nature journal. And then we go out and we can hang together. We can hang by ourselves. We journal for like an hour and a half and then get back together and share what we've learned. Because one thing that I love about nature journaling is that it's not a competitive sport.
Mm,
Nature journaling has been done for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years by all the naturalists that have like built the foundation of the natural sciences that we know today. And we have all learned from each other, and they all learned from each other. And so we're able
yeah.
to share that knowledge and be one big team, getting better together.
Yeah, I'm thinking of, Da Vinci drawing swirling water and Mary Anning drawing her your mosasaurs and, Darwin and his finches. I mean, the notebooks are all full of that, like people looking at stuff and drawing.
So
Uh, all right. Anything else you want to say before we wrap up? I want to thank you again for giving me an hour of your afternoon. There's, I think, a bunch of questions that we skipped, just because I clearly could talk to you for another whole episode, and maybe we will sometime in the future. But I want to thank you for being my guest today and for sharing about your work and your history and stuff. Um, do you have any final thoughts you need to share with the with my listeners before we push the end call here?
I just want to thank you for your time, and thank you for Matt for hosting, and for doing what you do. And you're a community builder, and I see that. And I think that's really cool and strongly needed in
Hmm.
every industry, but obviously in the game industry, it's so wonderful to have somebody like that. So thank you for adding to that great community. It's
Oh,
awesome.
well, I thank you. You're making my the 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 room's getting dusty over here. I think you're also such a force of like getting people involved. So it's sort of like, I was mentioning earlier, like from a distance, right? I'm like, oh, she's doing a cool game thing, and like, oh, nature journaling, like, and that's just me seeing what you're doing on the internet. So it's like, I think if I was in Philly, we'd be hanging out more often, I think.
Probably.
But anyway, so thank you for your energy that you bring to the industry and to your projects and to the advocacy for nature and stuff. So you're doing great work too. All right. We're done praising each other. Thank you for watching, everyone. Put in the comments what do you see any cool birds or lizards and or on your walks? Go for a walk, see a cool thing. Tell us in the comments what you saw. We'll love to hear about it. We'll see you everybody on the next one.